Hi everyone, and welcome to our screencast about finding academic research via the BSU library resources and with Google Scholar. As we begin, it's important to know what we're looking for. Our search is going to be generated by academic sources, and Ballpoint has a nice chart about how to differentiate academic and scholarly sources from popular sources. In our everyday lives, we see a ton of popular sources, and these can actually even come from the news. What we're looking for in English 104 are academic sources written by a researcher, either in a scientific field with an actual scientist or by a professor. Academic research will ideally be published in a peer-reviewed journal or a book. Now, these are more reliable than popular magazines, newspapers, and blogs because of that peer review process. Anyone can make their own website or blog and put whatever they want online, which is why sometimes it's hard to differentiate fake news from actual news. So we want to look for reliable scholarly sources that give detailed citations. They might include parenthetical citations or a reference list, whereas popular sources might only use hyperlinks or mention names without citations. With academic and scholarly research, we might also look for specialized language. Even some jargon, which means specialized language, that you might not understand. Visuals are used very differently in both popular and scholarly sources. In popular sources, visuals are made to catch the eye. They're made to be aesthetic, in other words. Whereas in scholarly research, visuals may be charts and graphs that show data. Often these visuals may include their own citations. So as we look through the Ball State Library resources and through Google Scholar, we're looking for qualities that make our sources academic and scholarly. For each of our major assignments in English 104, you'll be required to have a certain number of academic sources, and you can find that on the assignment sheets. Let's start with Google Scholar. This might be the first place that many people think of to look for research, and that's because it's easy. And more importantly, it's open access. And open access means that anyone has access to it without a university subscription. The Ball State University Libraries, on the other hand, requires a Ball State University username and password. So this is not open access. However, you'll see that on both of these platforms we'll find a lot of the same research, and that's awesome to see. Google Scholar can be accessed by simply typing scholar.google.com into the search bar. And here we have a search page that looks a lot like regular Google, but with the word scholar attached. I'm going to use a sample research topic about school uniforms. On the left, you can see that we can narrow the publication time of these sources by relevance, by date, and also by citation. Including citations could be important for us as we're going to be learning how to cite these sources, as could the relevance of their publication date. Maybe I don't want a research article from 1996, so I'm going to restrict that to, 2015. In the middle, you'll see hyperlinks and descriptions of the sources you can find. Underneath the title, which will have keywords in bold, you can find the authors and even the journal it came from, as well as the publication year and even a hyperlink. And then we've got a little bitty snippet of an abstract. And an abstract is part of the academic writing genre, and it basically means summary. Many types of academic journals will require authors to submit abstracts of their work. On the right, we can see links where these sources can be found. Some of them have direct PDFs, which is really cool. So that means these are open access as well, and I can go straight to this article. Very convenient. Some of them have links, and clicking that will either take you to the abstract page or to the article in whole. This one, for example, we don't have access to the full text, meaning that although we found this on Google Scholar, I cannot read the whole article from here. And that is the difficulty when we use Google Scholar. We cannot rely on all of our search results to generate the full text versions of these articles. Luckily, if you're on the Ball State University Wireless Network, on the right side of our screen, we'll often see where OneSearch, or the Ball State University Library System, also has these articles cited. Right now, we're not seeing that because I am not currently on the Ball State Wi-Fi. But now I'm going to show you how to use the University Libraries page to find some of the same research and even more. From our Libraries page, the first thing I see is a box called OneSearch, where I can find articles, books, music, DVDs, and more. This is your one-stop shop for finding a variety of research from the library. It essentially searches everything all in one. However, if we scroll down, we see a box labeled Databases, and this gives us just a little itty-bitty look at all of the databases the library has to offer. 317 databases. Now, this is a ginormous number because within each database can be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of journals, each with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of issues, each with up to 4 volumes, each containing 20 to 30 articles. So this is an absolutely massive collection of academic and scholarly research that is right at our fingertips. And we're already paying for this with our Ball State University tuition. So why not use it? Anyway, from our list of databases, the library already tells us what is most popular. And you might have already heard of Academic Search Premier. But for any research topic, there is likely a database or a journal that houses that specific topic. Anatomy, anthropology, science and technology, popular music, art, etc. We can even search these databases, for example, music, and generate, 51 databases for music alone. We can also note the chat feature for Ask a Librarian. This is an absolutely wonderful feature of the Ball State University libraries. If you're having difficulty finding a resource, if you're having difficulty navigating the online web pages, or if you simply have a question about whether or not a book is available, the librarians are always available to chat. Well, I don't know about always, but every time I have been online, the librarians have been online. And you can tell because of the green dot. If you send a message, usually they'll reply in 5 to 10 minutes. The most frequently used databases in this column on the right will also be amazingly generative databases for your research. The top, Academic Search Premier, then Business Source Complete, Eric from EBSCOhost, JSTOR, and PsycInfo. By clicking more, we can get a description of each one. For example, Academic Search Premier provides references and full text for over 1,000 journals from 1965 to today. Business Source Complete covers disciplines of business, marketing, management, accounting, banking, finance, and more. From 1886. 6,100 journals. Absolutely massive database. ERIC is a key database in the field of education. So if you have a research topic that is relevant to education in any way, about 1/3 of this content is accessible in full text from 1966. More than 650 journals. JSTOR searches 2,000 journal titles, many dating back to the 1800s, for over 2,000 journals. And then PsycInfo for the field of psychology and sociology. And these are just a short list. I might want to search ERIC because it's relevant to education and school uniforms. Pardon me while I do my dual authentication login. If you are researching these databases, you will also have to log in with your Ball State University credentials. This will give you access to the full text versions when available, because again, they're only available by subscription. I can tell that I'm logged in because I see Ball State University libraries in the top right corner. And I'll simply type in school uniforms. And underneath, we see a suggested list of search terms. And this is something that I tell everyone when doing academic research is to vary your search terms. Try many different terms. Try synonyms. Try key topics. Even try key authors. Oftentimes, different sources will come up from these different words. First, I'll start with school uniforms. Right away, I see that ERIC has generated 370 articles. Just like Google Scholar, if I go to the left side of the screen, I see that I can refine these results by limiting them to full text, peer review. If I'm doing research primarily online, I absolutely want to see the full text version. I see that from 370, the available goes to 173. Now let's limit to peer-reviewed. 40. By using those two limiters, I've eliminated almost 300 articles that would have been irrelevant to your assignment. Whenever you're doing searching in any kind of database, limit that to peer-reviewed and then full text so that you do not waste your time. Now from this list, anything I see, I can access. And I just have to read a little bit of that abstract and see if that's interesting to me. One of my favorite features of the online database system is the folder, which I see at the toolbar. From this page, if I generate 1, 2, 3, 4, I can generate a number of sources that I might find interesting and I might want to come back to later. So I click the folder icon and I add it to my folder. Then I can go and view my folder. This is where the magic happens. From here, I can print these sources if you happen to be at a library. Or if you're like me and you like to work digitally, you can choose to email these citations and their links and even their full text when available right to yourself. So I simply enter my email address. I give it a subject, a comment. I like to tell myself how many sources to expect. And I simply send it to myself. Extra bonus is when you can choose the citation format. And in English 104, we like to use MLA. Now, a word of warning, these will not be entirely correct. You will have to go through those citations and edit them, but it is a wonderful start to your citations. And then I hit send. Now, from my email, I can access my research at any time without opening this search window all over again. This will be absolutely convenient for your assignments as you complete ongoing research. Remember now that we're only in the ERIC database. We can search bigger databases such as Academic Search Premier for even more research that might not have been included in ERIC. In the ERIC database, remember that we had 40 or so articles to choose from. In Academic Search Premier, I'm going to use the same term, school uniforms. Right away, I notice that my search is larger. But remember, when we're doing online research via the databases, we always want to limit scholarly. Now from 849, I have 197. If I want to read the full text, now I have 78. And this is a way more manageable list to work with. I definitely see a few that I would like to read. For example, sports psychology and the effects of uniforms. I can access the PDF full text here, or I can add it to my folder and send it to myself at the conclusion of this search. The library even tells me that these sources come from academic journals. For example, number 7 came from the academic journal called Education and the Law. It was published in 2008. Each academic article that you find from a journal should have something called a DOI, which is essentially a social security number for each article. It's such a large number because every academic article published has its own serial number. That might be called a DOI. That might be called an accession date. Or you simply might need the URL for your MLA citation down the road. The library has done a good job of limiting this research, 1990 to 2018. But I can click Show More and further restrict my search options. This is a great choice for research topics that are very broad in nature, such as technology or communication or even business. You might want to limit your publication type to a book or maybe an educational report. An article. There's full text again. And here we can even plug in our own published dates. For example, I might want to go back to 1970 to 2019. No results were found. That tells me there was a problem with my search. Here is where we can also narrow down the fields that we're searching. For example, I might put uniform here and public school here in the subject term. That gives us a way more narrow articles, but ones that might be even more relevant to your search. So these are all ways that we can generate research and sift through the thousands and thousands of articles available from the library. Now let's go back to OneSearch. OneSearch searches the entirety of the library, so it's here that you'll find a lot of different looking research. Right away, we can see that this search window looks different. However, it has the same exact features that we saw in the other databases. On the right side of the top toolbar, we have our folder. We have our chat with a librarian function. And we have an expansion menu. On the left, we have ways to refine our search that generated over 2 million results. Right away, we can tell that OneSearch has searched millions more available resources than we could get to with the databases. But this is not a bad thing. And a lot of times we do want the more narrow search options provided by the databases. If I want full text, for example, my search results go from over 2 million to over 1 million, so we cut them in half. If I want to narrow to scholarly sources, I go from over 1 million to just over 350,000. From here, I might want to only take a look at journal articles. Now I have 345,000. And so on and so on. If we scroll a little bit, we can see that publication date that we can narrow. We can indicate last 12 months, 3 years, or 5 years, or we can use the sliding toolbar. I'm going to put 1970 to present. 332,000. Well, maybe I want to see the last 3 years. 66,000. A more manageable number of articles. But thinking about Kairos, which is the immediacy of this research topic, this might tell me that over the last 3 years, research on school uniforms has not been as prolific as it has in the past, even though we still have 66,000 results, showing that it is still important. Maybe other research topics such as violence in school or even school shootings have surpassed school uniforms as more important research topics. But anyway, if we look at these entries, the library tells us a lot of information before we even have to look at the article. Just like the other databases, we can see that this resource, for example, research number 1, came from the journal PLOS Neglected Tropical Diseases. It was published in 2017. Here's the title with our search term in bold. Underneath, we have listing of a few authors. The library tells us that this research is open access. So I bet if we did a search for this in Google Scholar, we could find it as well. And just like that, we have found the same article on Google Scholar, proving that it is indeed an open access research. But something that is only available on the library page would not be open access, such as source number 3. The Australian and New Zealand Journal of Public Health, it seems, is not open access. So we're lucky that we have access to the full text of this through the library database system. And while we might not always be interested in Australian and New Zealand public health, this gives us a great example of the kind of access we get from our Ball State University tuition. This is why we feel it's important to make the most of the database and your subscriptions while we have them. And this is why 104 has a focus on scholarly research. And again, Ballpoint reviews what we consider academic and scholarly versus what is popular. This screencast has given you information on how to navigate Google Scholar and how to navigate the Ball State University databases. But this only scratches the surface. This will get you started on your research journey, but as always, please keep in touch with me with any questions or concerns about your ongoing research. I will be more than happy to help. And in the meantime, don't forget that you can chat with a librarian at any time, or you can schedule an appointment with a librarian. I will show you how by going back to the BSU Libraries homepage. Here we go. At the Ask a Librarian page, we can chat live with a librarian. You can email or text a librarian directly. You can call the library help desk, or you can schedule an appointment with a librarian. And this is a wonderful option for going in one-on-one and working to find research that is directly applicable to you. If you're willing to go to Bracken Library for this help, the hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Appointments may be available after 6. And in the summer, I can promise you that they'll be more than happy to help you at most any time that will be convenient. But if you're primarily working digitally, you can call, you can email, you can text, or you can chat. So we have a number of resources available to help you. And again, keep in touch with any questions that might arise. Thank you for listening to this screencast. And until next time, this is Dr. Mock signing off.